Doug Polk here, and today we're going to be taking a look at a few hand histories from the early stages of tournaments to help you guys learn how to build a big stack. We are going to be joined by the newest member of Team Upswing, Pratush Badiga. Now, Pratush has some pretty impressive tournament results. In fact, he's cashed for over $5.3 million. Oh, wait, shit, he just passed me. What the hell? Pratush does have an impressive resume in tournaments, with his biggest score being over 800k in Macau, and he took down a 25k high roller last year for almost $800,000. I've had the honor of working with Pratush a lot in the last few years, and while he has a very good theoretical approach to the game, he also has solid reads on the way that the player pool plays, as well as a lot of reg-specific reads, so that makes him a fierce player in a lot of these tournaments. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into this video with Pratush, and keep in mind a couple of the hands were blocked by the webcam, but our opponents had us covered in at least the first one, so you know what the relevant stack size is. And we're going to go ahead and jump into our first hand. We're going to look at my hands first, and then we're going to get into Pratt's, but I got a few hands selected here, and thanks for coming over to help out here on the channel.
Hey, how's it going, guys? I'm looking forward to looking at these hands.
Awesome. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the first one. So here we have my fourth favorite hand, Pocket Jacks, and action folds to a mid-position player who decides to open. So let's just go ahead and start off by talking about some of the differences here between playing in a non-ante game versus an ante game. And what are you looking to change here in your pre-flop strategy with that in mind?
I'm definitely playing a lot tighter. There's not as many chips out there to be won, so I'm definitely just 3-betting and flatting a smaller range versus an open. Then if we had antes, where I'd be more incentivized to try to fight for the pot.
So how does that manifest itself? What hands would you consider 3-betting here? Or I guess it's really the other way, because we're going to be playing tighter. What are some of the kinds of hands you're looking to maybe flat or fold here that you would consider 3-betting in a game with antes? Or, once the tournament has antes?
I think some of the hands like a 9-7 suited, an 8-6 suited, some of the lower suited connectors like 6-5 suited, I would definitely start folding these with when it's pre-ante. But if there's antes, I'd definitely be looking to maybe 3-bet it and try to either win the pot pre-flop or have an interesting post-flop situation.
Yeah, it makes some sense. It's also worth noting that knocking the blinds out, especially the big blind, has a lot of value. And more so when there is an ante, because I assume the big blind's defense is going to go up substantially once there is an ante involved. So here, I assume we're going to go ahead and 3-bet jacks. I've highlighted some interesting ones. Don't know the exact action or hole cards, so we're all in for a little bit of a treat there. But we 3-bet jacks and get a call. So this looks pretty standard. Ace, 9, 7, and he checks. What are you doing here? What are your thoughts?
I'm definitely checking. I don't think we need to worry about equity denial too much here. I think jacks isn't a hand we want to go for 3 streets, so I'm definitely just going ahead and checking and planning to play bluff catcher. What about you?
Yeah, I think I lean towards a check too, but there is certainly a discussion to be had with the overpairs in our range. I think it's pretty fair to say that we can have 10s through kings here pretty much always.
Right.
Maybe looking to flat 10s pre versus some tighter players, but certainly jacks, queens, and kings always, probably 10s always as well. So, we kind of have to classify these pairs in different ways, and there's a huge difference to me between 10s without a spade and kings with a spade. Kings with a spade is just I think a mandatory check. I see basically no real merit in betting at all. There's not really any really bad turns for you. I mean, I'm not saying you're happy if the turn's like an offsuit 10 or an offsuit 8, but there's really no super amazing turns for you, and there's really no super bad turns for you. Whereas let's say you have a 10s with no spade. In that situation, going for more of an equity denial approach could make some sense. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Just the lower down we get, the more equity denial we have when there's more overcards that he could potentially hit. I think jacks with a spade is definitely closer to a check. I think, like you said, jacks and 10s without a spade could be a bet, and you still get some value from a 9 or even potentially some 8-7 suited or 7-6 suited type hand. So there is definitely some value to be had. So there's definitely some merit to betting.
Okay, cool. So I believe this is going to go check, check, and it does. And we get a deuce, and we face check again. So what's your thoughts here, I guess with jacks, but also like in general, how are you going to be structuring your range as far as trying to balance out your bluffs and value bets here on the turn?
I think for value bets, I'm going to definitely start value betting any ace that I might have checked back on the flop. So some of the low suited aces that we would have 3-bet, and maybe like an ace 10 off, I maybe check for some balance on the flop as well. So that would be my value bets. And then my bluffs would be hands that I didn't really think I could barrel too many turns and rivers with. So potentially like a queen jack of diamonds or something. Maybe if I 3-bet that pre-flop and was like, oh, I'd rather delay and start bluffing the turn. I think that hand would make sense. Just any hand that I like that has maybe didn't have any a real backdoor equity on the flop that needs to start bluffing at some point. I think those types of hands would make sense on the turn.
Okay, so we're definitely going to be going for some value with all of the ace X that traps the
Yeah.
flop. But what are you doing with some of these pairs? Because I think we're going to have a lot more hands like kings, queens, jacks than we are going to have ace X. I mean, yeah, when we have top pair, it's pretty sweet. But we have a lot of other hands here that realistically are pretty far ahead of our opponent. I guess it's debatable how far ahead they would be with two suites of betting, but given if we think about the pre-flop flat range for the opener, and then flop going check check, him electing to check the turn, he might occasionally trap a few aces, but especially in the non-ante portion of the tournament, kind of hard to imagine him having an ace unless it's like maybe a hand like ace 10 suited or something. So what are your thoughts here? You're going to bet any of those pairs on the turn?
I generally don't, but I can definitely see the merit for it. I think that especially a hand like jacks or tens, which can get some value on the turn and maybe needs a little more protection than a hand like kings, which can basically play well across all rivers. I could definitely see some merit for betting it on the turn. I generally check a lot in these spots. That definitely could be a league of mine, but I think there's definitely a lot of value to be had in here. So,
all right.
Especially.
Okay, cool. So check check, and we get a queen river, and our opponent bets 800. So I guess my first question is, how are you constructing your call range? And then after that, how are you playing your raises?
I guess I'm definitely calling kings. If I check back an ace on the turn, which I might check back an ace 3 suited, I would call that. But obviously that's not there's not too many combos.
Also, not to mention that pre-flop with non-ante, I assume you're 3-betting them a little less aggressively as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would still go for the wheel aces, but I think I wouldn't be 3-betting like an ace 6 or ace 8 or anything like that. So it's definitely a much it's a pretty rare spot where you can happily snap call with an ace here. So I think you definitely got to call kings. We do have queens here, which is nice, obviously for our raising. But I don't know. I don't think I would be calling jacks here. I think it just doesn't. It just doesn't seem like we're gonna be good enough quite often enough here.
Yeah, I think if you have a hand like kings or king queen, you have to call. I think that there is a chance that our opponent, realistically, is representing a queen here. He can have some weaker aces, but I have to imagine a lot of the hands that are betting this spot are a hand like king queen suited, maybe queen jack suited, depending on how thin he's looking to go. But really, he's representing like weak ace, strong queen. So whenever you have a hand that can beat some of the value bets, you just have a snap call, obviously.
Yeah.
And then we can obviously have a hand like king queen ourselves. Not too likely for us to have queen jack.
Yeah.
So maybe this hand just makes sense as a fold though. Kind of talking myself out of it, but we go ahead here and go for the all-in. So what do you think about the size here? How are you balancing this? What are we representing for value? And yeah.
I think we're representing queens or slow played aces, right? So I don't think we have any other value bets really besides those two hands. So I think it definitely makes sense to go all in when we just have we're representing top set or second set on this board. So I think sizing makes a lot of sense.
You do have to be very careful here though, because you're gonna have 3 combos of queens. And you might have 1 or 2 combos of aces, depending on the way that you're going to play that in the flop of the turn. But you know,
Yeah, I
let's say our opponent has a hand like king queen. We're down to one combo of queens. So
Yeah.
if we're going to be making this play, we have to be very confident in this being the hand that we're going to want to use. But then you also have to like only do it with a hand like jacks part of the time, because if you're just like, oh, jacks are worse than the next hand I want to call, I'm gonna rip it in. That's 6 combos.
You have way too many bluffs there.
Way too many bluffs. So yeah, I think I like this play looking back on it. Although you know I'm being a little bit results oriented, except I'm not, because it did not get through. So ace 10, a hand that we definitely could see here. I imagine my image not helping me in playing whatever tournament I'm playing in.
Yeah, I think you're like the only person who gets called here. Like, this is one of those where you can try this at home because it's gonna work for you, but it's not gonna work for Doug.
Definitely a worthwhile opinion, but I still strive for the balance, even though.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, but you know, a lot of times in like videos and stuff, when they're teaching someone, you know, you say don't try this at home, but you know, I say definitely try this at home. And you know, if you have, as long as you don't have Doug's image, which most of you probably don't. So.
It really is. I always say this: you got to nerf bluffing. Bluffing's just too strong.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, what do you think about his call? So I mean, for starters, like, I think we can agree King Queen is a much better call than Ace 10, in terms of just like what you're blocking. You know, when I jam here, he can mainly fold. So I don't know. I'm not totally sure what I feel about this, because you know, if he calls King Queen suited, and let's just say he's gonna bet a hand like Ace Queen or Ace Jack suited on the turn.
Yeah, I would.
You know, maybe he's kind of close to having enough calls with just King Queen. I guess I don't mind adding Ace 10 in, but it's definitely important to note here your removal against the range of hands that your opponents are presenting. And so sometimes, yeah, second pair would be a better hand to call with than top pair.
For sure. He also has to bet King Queen. Like I definitely see a lot of tournament players check a Queen here. So he might just think that he doesn't have any better hands than Ace 10 because he would bet Ace Jack and Ace Queen on the turn. So then Ace 10 is his best hand. He never has a Queen, and he might just decide that he has to call because of that. So I mean, I'm just trying to get inside his head, but
yeah, it totally makes sense. One of the things I like about betting King Queen more than Queen Jack is you cut in half the combos of kings your opponent can have. And also, you know, you're going to chop with King Queen, whereas with a hand like Queen Jack, you know, you obviously lose to it. So I think it could be a pretty reasonable spot to check with a hand like Queen Jack or Queen 10 in his spot, but be betting with a hand like King Queen.
Yeah, I like the bet with King Queen. I just have seen so many checks in that spot that I think that his logic might be that this is the best hand he has, but maybe he was thinking about the blockers too. I'm not really sure.
Yeah. Or maybe just Doug's bluffing too much. All right, let's move on to the next hand here.